Hey, this is Daniel Norton. I'm here in my studio in New York City with nobody. Well, no, actually I'm going to do some product photography today. But the reason why we're doing this is because today's actually World Backup Day, and I want to talk a little bit about kind of workflow when you're on a job. So I thought I'll combine two things here because a lot of people ask me about simple product photography, and a lot of people ask me kind of what do you do on the job. So I get kind of inspired to do this because I got a new drive by G-Tech over here. This is the new G-RAID, and basically what this is, if you're not familiar with what a RAID is essentially two drives that, in this case, they're running in a pair that as you're writing files to it, it only looks like one drive on my desktop, but it's actually copying it twice. This way, if one of those drives were to go out on me, the other one would keep the data, and you could just put a replacement drive in and you'd never lose any data. So if you've never used a RAID like this before, it's pretty intuitive. We can see here that the G's lit up white, which means that everything's healthy and working totally fine. If there was any kind of problem with one of your drives inside, this would change color. And then when you flip down the door, the drives themselves also have lights showing that they are healthy. If there was an issue with the drive again, what you would do is just pop this button here, open the gate, pull the drive out, you would get a replacement drive, you stick it in, you close the whole thing back up, you close it, and then it'll just go through a process of basically backing itself up, and you're good to go. That's kind of the key here. We always use RAIDs when we want to back up important information, and this one is the one I use at my studio, and then I keep another one off-site at my office. So we'll talk about that in a second, but what's cool about this one for this setup is that in the back of this is a pass-through for HDMI. So if you're using Thunderbolt like I am with my laptop, I can basically plug one cable from my laptop to the drive, and then this HDMI cable in my monitor here goes in. It keeps everything nice and neat, and basically I've got a monitor that is getting signal from my laptop through the drive. So this, as I mentioned, is Thunderbolt, right? So I got two Thunderbolts ports, so you got your in and your out, so if you want to daisy chain stuff together. In addition to that, there is a USB 3 port. So if you are not Thunderbolt yet, you could still use this with USB 3, and then when you kind of upgrade to Thunderbolt eventually, which is a good idea, then you will be good to go. So before we get into the idea of just like backing stuff up, I want to talk a little bit about file naming and organizing, because I think that's really important when you're looking at long-term use. Okay guys, so I just want to talk a little bit about kind of file naming, because I think that a lot of times people, as they build up, they're just kind of calling the files different things and they're throwing them in. Then after a while, you have this like gigantic drive, and it's backed up, so that's good, right? But you can't find anything. So let's talk about that quickly as I build a Capture One session, since that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to click on Capture One. So I'm going to start Capture One, and then it's going to pop up here, and I have no recent catalog set up, so I'm going to do a new session. Once I do that, this is where my naming comes in. So the way that the naming convention that I like to use here is basically, I'm going to name it the year first, then the month, and then the day. And the reason why I do it this way is because everything will automatically be in order. If you call it month first, then what'll end up happening is as soon as you get into like 10 or 12, it'll jump to the top because 1 is the first number, right? So I put in the year first, then zeros, and then into the month like that, so you can put a 0 in front, it'll actually keep them organized. Now I've done that, I'm gonna call it what I'm gonna call it, which I'm gonna call it OnSet, backup. And whenever I shoot tethered, like on a job like this, I'm always gonna shoot to my desktop. You know, I have the MacBook here, and it's got a solid state drive in it, so it's really fast to do that. So you can see here that I've got my folder here, and what Capture One does is it makes this folder when you start. Now, that's fine and dandy, and you can back up when you're done, but if you're doing some kinds of shoots, like let's say that's like once in a lifetime or something could happen, or you just want to be extra paranoid, or you're getting paid a lot or whatever, and you want to back up as you go, one cool way to do this is to use what's called the Automator, which is built into Macs, and I'm sure Windows has some kind of thing to do this as well. So I'm going to kind of show you guys how to do it because it's kind of fun. So by the way, here's the G-RAID over here, right? And you can see the way I'm set up here. Essentially, when I go to, okay, because you can see now I have a lot of different things in here, but what I want to go to right now is photo shoots. We got on-set shoots, right? So this would be video shoots, and then I've got photo shoots. So these are all my photo shoots that I've done so far. You can see, by the way, that I have some 19s in here from last year, but those are aliases to the other drive because I was still editing them as we came into 2020. So here's all our stuff, and you notice I have that. The other thing that I do is I've got over here, so ultimately that's where I'm going to put the files, right? But over here I've got tether backup. I use this specifically for this job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my folder I made on the desktop, and I'm just going to copy the name of it, and I'm going to make another folder in tether backup, and I'm going to call it the same thing. But I'm going to then just write capture at the end, right? This way I know what I've got set up. Now I'm going to come over here to the automator, and we're going to make a new one, right? So I'm going to go File, New. So basically this is just a macro, right? We're going to make what's called a folder action. Choose, and the action is going to it's going to be deal with files put into a certain folder, and in this case that folder is going to be the onset shoot that we're doing now, the capture folder, because that's where my images are going to go, right? So I set it to be that, and then over here I'm going to go to my files and folder section, and I'm going to say copy finder items. So it's going to copy anything I put in the folder. I'm going to drag that over to here. And it gives me a choice to where, right? Where do I want to copy it to? I'm going to drag this down, and I'm going to set it to other, basically, and I'm going to find that folder I just made, which is in my G-RAID, which is in my tether backup right there. Boom, there it is. Choose. Okay. Now I'm basically good to go. You can check off replace existing files if you want, and then hit. Oh, I want to name this up, right? And I'm going to name it when I save it. So I'm going to say save, and I'm going to call this. Again, I'm going to call it the name of the thing I'm doing so that I don't get confused there. Calling everything the same name is always a good idea. Then I'll quit this, clean this up, just keep it neat. Now I'm just going to come back over here and make sure everything's set up by going on here, and I'm going to basically right click or control click, and I'm going to go down here to folder action setup. It's going to ask me to confirm, which I confirm, and you can see here on this folder called capture, I have it set up. You can actually see here there's a red one above it. This is actually an old one that I set up, and of course the folder is not where it existed before, so we know we're good to go. You can hit edit workflow if you want, just to check it. Everything's good, quit that. And then what we're gonna do, just because, just to make sure, we're gonna do a quick test on it. So I'm gonna open up my capture folder, which I have right there, right? And I'm gonna go to my G-RAID, and I'm going to go to tether backup, the folder I just made. This is the folder it should go to. And I'm just going to make a screenshot. Make a quick screenshot. And we'll take that screenshot and we're going to drop it into that folder. So we'll drop it into this capture folder. And when we do, it appears in the other folder. So now we have that backup. So anything I put in that folder, now if you remember, if you ever see me shoot tethered, every time I take a picture, it's gonna go into that folder, which means it's gonna then back it up automatically, and I have all my files. Now the only downside to this is that it's not clearly updated in the capture catalog as you go, right? So that's something we'll deal with at the end, but honestly, having the photos is much more important than having the catalog. That's easy enough to replace if need be. So I'm gonna close these windows to keep things nice and neat. And we're gonna now start our little shoot here, okay? Okay, so Capture One's opened up. Let me show you the lighting here. So I've done early in OnSet, we did kind of a simple product setup using a sweep. So I thought I'd do it a little bit differently here. I'm gonna use kind of two things. The fact that I'm in a daylight studio, so I'm using kind of a lot of the light in here, and then just a directional light source to give me a little more control. We can probably actually feel the light coming up now, right? Essentially, I have this nice little box here with some dice on top. This is gonna be my subject. I've got it on just a white background, essentially. This is a V-flat from V-flat World. It's just folded out like this. It's just a piece of foam core, basically. And I'm gonna get it nice and close to the product. And what I'm doing is I'm positioning my camera height at such a place where basically the top of the box is right at the edge where I see the edge of the background. And then what I'm gonna get is kind of a grayish background, and how dark gray it'll be will be based on how much light's in the space, because the main product is going to be lit by this light overhead. This is a dado light, a DLED 10, so it's a powerful LED light. I have it set to daylight balance because I'm in a daylight studio and I'm mixing the light, right? It's going through a Shimura full diffuser, which is giving me a nice kind of soft light that wraps around. You're still getting, when you're shooting product like this, you kind of want to, shooting it backlit like this is a really nice way to do it. It feels very real. You get this bit of drop shadow in the front that gives it some shape and form, but you still have plenty of light bouncing around that it looks nice and clean. The thing that I am going to do though is add some reflectors. I'm just gonna take, this is again just a piece of foam board that we kind of split. This is just to kind of fill in a bit. This becomes even more important if you're shooting something reflective because we want to add highlights, right? This is gonna basically give us that little fill in the front. And I have another one here. This one I'm gonna use the silver side just to give a little more specularity. It's not really gonna make that much of a difference exposure-wise, and silver does give you a little more exposure, but not a whole heck of a lot. And I'm basically putting them right on either side of my lens, right? Then I'm basically gonna, you could use a light meter for this, but since we're shooting in daylight, it's nice and simple. I'm literally just gonna look through here to get my base exposure. This lens opens up to f4, so that's where I'm gonna be at. To be nice and shallow. You always like that shallow depth of field. And I'm gonna kind of dial in where I think it looks good to my eye to start with. And again, we're in capture 1, so we'll be able to adjust a bit. I'm gonna pre-focus, then I'm gonna throw the thing on manual focus because I don't really need to ever change the focus again, I don't think. And I'm at 80th of a second at f4, 100 ISO. Okay, so we've got the picture here. It looks good. So I have, by the way, guys, I have these frame lines up and everything on the screen. The exposure looks good. I mean, looking through it. As far as focus, we're gonna have to pick a good spot to focus on, right? When we go through, we gotta decide what we want in focus, because remember that there's only one spot that's absolutely in focus. But before we get into that, let's set ourselves up as if a client's here. So I'm gonna go over to this menu, I'm gonna hit Viewer. And when I do that, we get a second image pops up over here on the other screen. Again, this is nice and big so that if you have clients, they don't have to come up over your shoulder, right? They could be standing back here. They can see the image really easily. They don't have to kind of huddle around. Because I mean, if I'm gonna work on this, right, I'm gonna get in close. It could be that, you know, the client's gonna huddle over my shoulder. But if I wanna show them a detail, let's say of this die up here, you know, I can just come up here and do it. I don't have to, you know, I can pop in and show them that. So I don't have to worry about too much about that. You don't want people on your computer, basically. Another thing you can do, which actually works really well, I find this is great for like stylists and stuff, because again, they can stand back and they can watch it. They could even be over here, you know, making a quick adjustment, you make a thing, they can, you know, so that's good for a stylist. For a client, what I like to use is what's called Capture Pilot. So that's a function of Capture One. It's built into it. The receiving end of it is free, so they could use their own phone or whatever if they have an iPhone or Android phone. But I usually provide my own iPad, that way, you know, it just works better. And what I'm gonna do is open this up, and we're gonna go to Capture Pilot. And we're gonna look, it gives, when you fire it up, it gives you a server list. I call this one test server. We hit this, and now it's showing me whatever's in the server. They can actually, as I shoot, I'll shoot over here, I'm just gonna use Capture One to take a photo. If I take a photo, you know, the new one will automatically come in and pop up. So any changes we'll be able to see right away. They can zoom in on it if they want. You know, come back and forth to decide what they're doing. It's not as fast, obviously, as it being in the computer. It has to transfer the file over, but for most stuff, that's super good. And anywhere that the Wi-Fi is, because they're on the Wi-Fi, right, will work. So they could sit in the office drinking coffee and just watch the images pop up. They don't have to stand there on the set if they don't want to. So that's pretty good. Again, this is a typical kind of client setup. We've got the workstation that you might use as the photographer or the digital tech, right? You've got a larger monitor for your stylists or assistants or whatever. You've got the small monitor there that's an iPad for clients. And we're automatically backing everything up because we have the G-Tech drive here. It's all kind of coming into it. And really, it's all, I mean, I have my tethering cable here, and I've got my power, of course. And then I have just one cable that goes to everything else. And it's really simple, cool setup. So if you have a laptop at the end of the day, we can just pull these out, go home, come back the next day, leave it set up. It's nice and fast. So let me just show you guys, from Capture One, we can make any adjustments that we want. So let's say we're looking at this. I can feel like the light's going down a little bit outside, and let's say we want it to be a little bit brighter. I can maybe come in here and like change my shutter speed, and we can actually take another shot. And now it's a bit brighter, right? And we can kind of decide, you know, where we want to go. What's the proper exposure? That actually looks a little bright, so go back. The other thing we can do here is if we're making adjustments, I can come in and I can actually hit Live View. And the Live View screen is going to show me, you know, literally what the camera's seeing, right? So there's my hand, right? So this is especially good, like I mentioned about the stylist, because I could take this, I could drag it onto my other monitor, nice and big, right? So the stylist can come right over here and they can be looking at a monitor and making adjustments as they go. And they can knock, it's clearly I'm not a stylist because I knock things over. But let's say that they make an adjustment and they're like, okay, that looks better. Now we're good, right? They like that symmetry, right? Boom. I mean, we all know that the 8-sided die goes on top. That's pretty standard, right? Oh no, that's cut off from the frame, and see, they can see that right away. We don't have to discuss it. When you're doing this kind of stuff, it's almost like the camera is just there as a viewer. You're not really making a lot of adjustments on the camera. We're literally just coming in and creating our set as we go, looking at the various setups, let's say, that we want, and seeing what we like. So let's say we like that setup, move this reflector back, and we can go ahead and make another shot. We can actually make it from here if we want, and that will appear. Of course, that's down there, on the bottom, or it's right there as well. So nice and simple, just like that. Okay, so let's say that we're done. We shot a whole bunch of products. We get everything done for the day. Everything is in this capture, in Capture One, which we can now quit. And because we did it the way that we did it, it's already backed up onto our G-RAID. So let's go over and look at the G-RAID. We go into tether backup, which we set up. And we can see, obviously I only shot a handful of photos, but they're all there. And on the desktop, we have the exact same setup, right? So all the files are there. We have a backup, but we only have a backup of the files. And maybe we were cropping, maybe we were color correcting, maybe we were doing other things that we want to make sure we record, right? So in order to get that information, what we need is the session, right? So the way that I'm going to do that now, to make it really simple, is I'm going to take the capture folder out of the one that's on the desktop and just put it there for a second. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I don't want to copy all that stuff to the G-RAID. It's already there, right? So now I'm going to grab this folder, the original folder from the desktop, and I'm going to copy it into here. So now what I've done is I have a copy of basically this folder, which has everything except for the actual images. Then I'll take my images, which are right here, and I'll now rename this, because again, right now it's called the whole thing with capture at the end. I'm just going to rename it to capture, because that's what it needs to be called. Make sure we spell it right. And that's good. Now I'm going to go back to my desktop, grab this capture here, put it back here so I'm still straight. So now I've got two perfect copies of the images, two perfect copies of the session. Nice and easy, and again, I'll show you if I just open this here. This is from the G-RAID. Everything will open right up, and we'll be able to see our images as soon as it opens up. There we go. There they are. Oops. Hot corners. And there's all our images, right? Nice and easy, good to go. And again, if I had made a correction on this, a crop or whatever, look, there's even the image from the beginning with the screenshot, because that copied over. Okay, so we've got that. That's all good to go. So again, G-RAID, I'm leaving here at the studio. This is my backup off-site, right? On my desktop of my computer, I've got a backup that, or the original, if you want to call it that I'm going to bring home and put on the RAID that I have there. Now I've got things in both places. I always make an extra step because I'm super paranoid, which is I have this small drive here as well. This is a solid state drive. And what I'll do is when we're packing up or doing some other things, I'm just going to plug this in. And again, this is Thunderbolt, so there's another place where I can plug it in. And once this guy pops up on my screen, here, there it is. I'm going to just copy this entire thing here, right? I had an older copy on there, I'll replace it. Of course, that was super fast, and it will be fast even if you have a lot of files because this is solid state. But this might take, let's say, 5 minutes, and while it's doing it, if you have a lot of stuff going on, you could be breaking down the lights, doing other things. And now, when this is all said and done, I've got basically in my bag that I'm gonna, take home, I've got my laptop, which has a copy of it. I've got this guy, which has a copy of it. And then here at the studio, secure off-site, I have another copy of all my files and everything good to go. This gives me off-site backup, which is super important. We want to make sure that when we're backing stuff up that we not only have two copies of something, but that, or multiple, right? That they're in different locations, so if something were to happen, you'll have that backup. This is especially important with client photos. If you don't do it at the time of shooting, at least do it like once a month. Figure out a schedule for you that works, but doing it this way can work really quickly, especially with the way I showed you. The other advantage of this little drive is, let's say we get everything packed up and ready to go, and then the client is like, oh, could I get a copy of those to send to the retoucher right away or whatever, I can immediately just give them this drive, so it doesn't affect anything. I have an extra drive I can just give to them, and sometimes I'll just do that anyways, right? I'll buy a fresh one for the job. So backup, super important. That's why they have World Backup Day. That's why we're here talking about it. So let me know, guys, what you guys do. Do you guys use RAID systems? If not, are you going to try to use it now that you're learning about them? Or do you just use separate hard drives? Do you keep stuff off-site? Do you use cloud backup? Like, what kind of stuff do you guys do? Well, thanks for watching, guys. I'll put the models information in the description if you guys want to follow them. Be sure to follow me, Daniel Norton Photographer, and subscribe to Adorama TV. Ring the bell so you get all the new notifications, and I'll see you next time on set.